Dear students, once again, welcome back to a new session of the history class. Today, we are going to continue with the same chapter, chapter number 4, second phase of the international movement, part 5. Before we move to the new topic, I would like to grab your attention to the previous class which we have discussed in the last class. In the last class, we were focusing on two important points. First one, main objective of assertive nationalist, and the second one, methods of the assertive nationalist. So under main objective, we were discussing one important objective. That means they were having only one objective, that was complete freedom, or in other words, Purna Swaraj. And under the title methods, we were having 4 different methods. You might be remembering those 4 different methods used by assertive nationalists, but I am repeating it once again. First method, Swadeshi. Second one, boycott. Third one, national education. And the fourth one, passive resistance. So I think you have studied those parts very well. So without wasting time, we are moving to the next part of the chapter. Today we are going to focus on 2 important points. First one, achievements of the assertive nationalist, and the second point, leaders of assertive nationalism. Achievements of the assertive nationalist. Assertive nationalist leaders have added a glorious period of, or they have added a glorious moments in the history of India, because their thoughts and philosophies has influenced all different sectors of the society, and it influenced all different realms of the people, including in the lifestyle, culture, customs, traditions. Everything has got influenced by the philosophies and thoughts of assertive nationalism or assertive nationalist. So let's see the main important points or the main achievements of the assertive nationalist. First one, it inculcated national pride by exalting India's past. Extolling actually means praising. So the feeling of nation or national feeling or oneness of nation, this particular feeling has inculcated or cultivated or created in the minds of the people by extolling or praising India's past. When we were discussing in the last class, we have focused on a particular point you might be remembering. It is revivalism. That means we were focusing on the glorious past, and the people who were listening to the words of assertive nationalist or assertive nationalism, they have got boosted by the words, especially because of the glorious past. So those glorious past influenced a lot of people, and it led to form a very strong national movement. So it was the first important achievements of the assertive nationalist. The next point is new slogans, making of new slogans to the national movement. That means even now the different political parties, when they make processions through the public places, like through making processions on the road, you might have heard that they are singing different slogans. And actually, what is the use of these slogans? These slogans can influence the people, means it will boost the feeling. So this is what really happened during the time of assertive nationalists. They have made a number of new slogans which promote non-cooperation, passive resistance, self-reliance, and so on. So these new slogans, by using these kinds of new slogans, they were able to control the people. They were able to boost the people. So that's why they were ready to sacrifice their life even for the nation. So this was the another achievement from the assertive nationalists. And the third point says that they have wrote and spoke in vernacular languages and succeeded in conveying the message to mass people. Suppose, just imagine if a foreigner is coming to our country in order to speak or influence people through his speech. But actually what happens, if he is not knowing the vernacular language of a particular locality, how can he express his real feelings to the people? and how much the people will understand the real feeling of the speaker. So this is what was happening in the former period. Now the leaders, they understood the importance of the vernacular languages or local languages, and they started to speak and write, and through their speech and writings they were able to communicate the real feelings towards the people, and they were able to succeed in conveying and influencing the people through their message. So gradually a large number of people started to organize or started to assemble in the name of nationalism. So it was one of the third important achievements of the assertive nationalism. And when we move to the fourth point, it infused the spirit of active nationalism. Here infuse means fill or filling something. So infuse the spirit means filling the spirit of active nationalism. All the people got charged with the nationalist feeling or nationalism. So it led the people to take active participation in the nationalist movement or nationalism. So it was the fourth important achievement from the assertive nationalist leaders. And again, importance of self-reliance and Swadeshi stores. Even leaders helped the people to set up different industries, and those industries were producing different products which were needed by our country people, and it led to the beginning of Swadeshi stores. That means when Indian business people started to set up different business sectors, they started to produce, or their products were being sold in different Swadeshi stores, and it led to the self-reliance. So whenever the leaders started, or whenever the leaders got a chance to speak to the people, they have conveyed the message of importance of self-reliance and Swadeshi stores. It was one another important achievement, and through their speech and through their messages, they were able to communicate to the people, and they were able to convince the people. As a result, the use of Swadeshi products started to increase in our society. So it was a big check to the growth of British and their interest. So it was the fifth important achievement from the side of assertive nationalist leaders. Then again, next one, declared that what India wants is total freedom. So we can understand it from the aspects when we look into the early nationalist leaders and assertive nationalist leaders. Early nationalist leaders were demanding for freedom, but under the British administration, under the British rule. But in the case of assertive nationalist leaders, they told we need complete freedom, complete free from the British. If there is a government, it should be ruled by Indians for Indians. So it was the demand. They declared that India wants only one thing. Ultimately, India wants only one thing. The first and last demand of India is total freedom. So it was for the first time declared by assertive nationalists. Assertive nationalists declared it for the first time that India's interest is laying only in the total freedom, not a government which can function under the British. And again, the seventh point says that the assertive nationalist leaders set up many educational institutions. Already in the previous part we have seen one of the method adopted by assertive nationalist leaders, that was national education. And as it was their policy, they have set up number of educational institutions in different parts of the country according to the needs of the people. So it was one another achievement from the side of assertive nationalist leaders or assertive nationalism. And the eighth one says that the one another important achievement of assertive nationalist or assertive nationalism is the movement which started from Bengal had an all India character. That means actually in the previous part, along with the partition of Bengal we have seen, or along with the split of 1907. When we were dealing with those topics, I have told you very clearly, one of the main disagreement between both early nationalist leaders and assertive nationalist leaders were about the movement, because early nationalist leaders demanded that the anti-partition movement along with Swadeshi movement and boycott movement should be limited only in Bengal. But the assertive nationalist leaders told it should not be limited only in Bengal. It should spread throughout the country, because they were having a belief. They believed that only through a mass participation, only through mass movement, India will get freedom. So that's why they were able to achieve this particular interest. That means the movement slowly started to spread all over India, throughout India. So it was one another important achievement of assertive nationalist leaders. Then again, because of the efforts and sacrifices of assertive nationalists, partition of Bengal was cancelled. So it was the ultimate, one important achievement of assertive nationalists, because they have made a number of writings, sacrifices and efforts. They were ready to shed their blood for the nation. So because of their hard work, assertive nationalists, because of the hard work of assertive nationalism or assertive nationalists, finally partition of Bengal was cancelled. So it was a very important point with regard to the achievement of assertive nationalists. Now we are going to have a comparison between early nationalist and assertive nationalist. Let's see what were the difference between early nationalism and assertive nationalism. Assertive nationalism was demanding for complete independence. At the same time, early nationalism was demanding for self-government within the British Empire. Here you might not be getting some differences between both this ideology, but there is a wide gap between both this ideology. Take the example of assertive nationalism. They have asked for Purna Swaraj, complete independence. That means if a government is formed, it will be formed by the people of India and it will be for the people of India. But at the same time, early nationalist leaders, they have demanded for a self-government within the British Empire. That means majority of the representatives in the government will be Indians, but at the same time all the major decisions will be in the hands of the British. So this is the main difference between the ideology of complete independence and a self-government. Assertive nationalist leaders, their ideology was also something like self-government, but it is something different from early nationalist leaders. Now let's move to the next point. From the side of assertive nationalism, they were following active resistance. Whenever the government implemented certain rules against the people or against the interest of the people of India, they were resisting. They were actively resisting against the British. But at the same time, early nationalist leaders were following constitutional methods, and I hope you might be remembering what is meant by constitutional methods. In one of my classes I have told you 3 P's, which means petition, prayer and protest. These were the 3 different methods followed by early nationalist leaders, because they were focusing on peaceful measures. So that's why it is being known as constitutional methods. But assertive nationalist leaders were not ready to follow such kinds of peaceful measures. They were active, they were following active resistance. Then again the next point says denounce the British rule. Denounce means blaming somebody or blaming something. So blamed British rule for the condition of India, because India's condition was always going from bad to worse. So in such cases, how can we say that the British people are the saviors of or savior of our country? So it was not possible to say so. So that's why they have denounced the British rule. But at the same time, early nationalists were having a different opinion, had good positions under British government. They were still believing that British people will be having a very good concern towards the people of India. So it was the difference between assertive nationalist leaders and early nationalist leaders. Then again, assertive nationalist leaders they were having the support of the masses. Large number of people were supported assertive nationalist leaders. But in the case of early nationalist leaders, they were getting the support of intelligent sections of the society, or middle class sections of the society were the members of early nationalist leaders. The main reason it was just because only the middle class people were educated people, and those people were against the activities of the British in India. So that's why they have got only the support of a small group. But while considering with assertive nationalist leaders, they were getting a support of large masses. A large number of people were supporting assertive nationalist leaders. And again, assertive nationalist leaders were getting inspiration from India's glorious past, but in the case of early nationalist leaders, they were getting inspiration, or they got inspired by Western philosophers. So there itself you can see the difference between both group and their ideology. Inspiration from the India's past means, in the last class we have already studied about revivalism and how revivalism helped for the growth of nationalism in our country. We have already studied about it. The same thing is being repeated here. Inspiration from India's past. But in the case of early nationalist leaders, they were inspired only by Western philosophers. So that's why its impact and influence into societies were having two different ranges. Now let's move to the next part of the today's class. That means leaders of assertive nationalism. So here we are going to see three important leaders of assertive nationalism. But today we are discussing only about the first one, that is Bal Gangadhar Tilak. Altogether three prominent personalities are there: Bal Gangadhar Tilak, Bipin Chandra Pal, Lala Lajpat Rai. But today we are going to focus only on Bal Gangadhar Tilak. The remaining factors about the two different personalities will be discussed in the next class. So here we are going to see, or here we are going to have a live sketch and contributions of Bal Gangadhar Tilak. Bal Gangadhar Tilak is being known as the father of the assertive nationalism, because for the first time in the history of the Congress, a person had made a large number of contributions to the growth of Indian National Congress. So that's why he is being known as father of the assertive nationalism, because once the Indian National Congress started to follow assertive nationalism, from there Congress started to get its popularity. So that's why he has got an important role in spreading or popularizing the Indian National Congress. His ideologies were really making a great impact in the Indian society with regard to different political ideologies. So that's why he is being known as the father of assertive nationalism. He was born in Maharashtra, and during his lifetime he had made a number of contributions to the society. After completing his graduation, he founded Pune New English School. So it was his first contribution to the nation. And later again in 1884, he had founded Deccan Education Society. He had founded this Deccan Education Society with a definite purpose, because under the Deccan Education Society they have founded a number of educational institutions like schools for spreading education throughout the country. So that's why his contribution cannot be measured from a particular perspective, because he was such a great man with a very great vision. Now let's see what were his contributions. He had mainly contributed to 4 different fields, or 4 different ideologies were his main contribution. First one, demand for Swaraj. Second one, preached nationalism. Third one, established Home Rule League. And the fourth one, he is being known as the forerunner of Gandhiji. Let's see all these points one by one in detail. First one, demand for Swaraj. He was the first person to openly declare demand for Swaraj. So, for the first time in the history of India, a person without any fear started to demand for Swaraj rather than asking for it. So, he demanded it rather than asking or begging for the Swaraj. And again, you might have heard this particular slogan several times in your life, especially during Independence Day. Swaraj is my birthright and I shall have it. So it was for the first time a person, by these kinds of powerful slogans or powerful words, influenced a huge mass, or a person who had got influenced a large number of people in the country. One of his main ideology was political rights could be achieved by aggressively demanding for it. Rather than asking for it, rather than begging for the political rights, it should be achieved by aggressively or aggressive methods. So it was one of his main ideology behind the freedom. Again, due to his entry into the politics of India, it was a period, or it can be considered as a shift from petitions to demanding rights. Still then, before his entry into the politics, it was something like petitions. People or the leaders were following petitions. They were writing petitions to the British government for their rights. But here, when he joined in the politics of India, it was a period of shift from petitions to demanding rights. Rather than begging, they have started to demand for rights. So it was a main impact, a contribution from his side. Then again, he was the first leader to have close contact with the masses. So a person who was having a very good close contact with the masses for the first time in the history of politics, that was Bal Gangadhar Tilak. So it was his main contribution to the field of demand for Swaraj. Then again, he has organized akhadas, not only akhadas, again Lati clubs. Akhadas and Lati clubs were the contribution or organized, or akhadas and Lati clubs were organized by Bal Gangadhar Tilak. It was mainly for physical training. Akhadas were mainly focusing on inculcating courage, self-defense and patriotism. And again, Lati clubs were focusing on physical training. So these were some of his contributions to the field of Swaraj, or demanding Swaraj. In order to train people, he had founded so many different ways. So it was his first contribution. Now, preached nationalism. Let's see how he preached nationalism. In order to proclaim, or in order to spread the national feeling, in 1893 he started to celebrate Ganapati festival. So during Ganapati festival, he has used different songs and speeches to promote nationalist ideas. So he was knowing very well how he can influence people along with religion, how the religion and nationalism can be bounded together. So he was knowing it very well. That's why he used the technique of celebrating different festivals, and during festival he will be using songs and speeches in order to influence people or to promote national ideas. So it was one of his main idea. Then again, in 1895 he has made some celebrations of Shivaji, like the Shivaji festival, and during that time he glorified Shivaji with regard to, or by saying about the very colorful history or past of India, and those different events, those different speeches and songs influenced and encouraged the young people of the locality or the particular region. So it was one another method which he has used to preach nationalism. And again, he has founded newspapers. Two different newspapers he was publishing. First one, Maratha in English, and the second one, Kesari in Maratha. So Maratha in English and Kesari in Maratha. So these were the two different newspapers published by Bal Gangadhar Tilak. Through his newspapers, he has preached nationalism, and again he told the people to be courageous and to be self-reliant. So whenever he got a chance to address the people, either in speech or through writings, he was influencing the people, he was preaching the people about nationalism, and he was telling about the glorious past. He was always giving the message related to past glory or the glorious past of our country. And again, he told the people to be very courageous, don't be frightened by the British, and again, be self-reliant. If you want something, for whatever needs you have, try to solve it from your own side, or try to solve it from our resources, more than depending on the British and their resources, their products. So it was his one another important speciality. And again, he has written two books. First one, the Gita Rahasya, and the other one, the Artiham of the Vedas. So these were two different books written by Bal Gangadhar Tilak. Now let's move to the third contribution of Bal Gangadhar Tilak, that is Home Rule League. What is meant by Home Rule League? It was an association founded by Bal Gangadhar Tilak. 1996, he has founded an organization, an association to react to the British, in order to react to the British, and the particular organization, association is being known as Home Rule League, and it was situated in Pune. From Pune he has founded it. And the main aim, attain self-government within the British Empire by constitutional means. Assertive nationalist leaders were having complete freedom. They were having an intention, they were having an aim to get complete freedom, but at the same time, by following some constitutional measures or constitutional means, they were having an intention to get a self-government within the British. So in order to achieve this goal, he had founded the Home Rule League. Now let's move to the fourth contribution of Bal Gangadhar Tilak. That is, he is being known as the forerunner of Gandhiji. Forerunner means a person who came to the Indian politics before Gandhiji, but at the same time he was having the same ideology of Mahatma Gandhi. Let's see what were the features, the key features or the specialities between Bal Gangadhar Tilak and Gandhiji. Bal Gangadhar Tilak was upholding the idea of Swaraj, complete freedom, and Gandhiji was having the idea of complete independence. So almost the same ideology. Both the peoples who were there in the Indian politics in different period of time, but having the same ideology. Then again, Tilak was having a very close contact with the masses. A person, for the first time in the history, a person who had very close contact with the masses. That particular title belongs to Tilak. And Gandhiji also were having a very close contact with the masses. Or in other words, both these personalities influenced masses or a large number of people, and those people have, or they were ready to take active participation in Indian national movement. And again, the third point is ideas of Swadeshi, boycott and prohibition. These methods were being used by assertive nationalist leaders. So ideas of Swadeshi and boycott was introduced by Bal Gangadhar Tilak. So it was from his side, and again from the side of Mahatma Gandhi, ideas of Swadeshi, boycott and prohibition practiced by Mahatma Gandhi. So Gandhiji was also attracted towards this ideology, and it was one another main similarity between Tilak and Gandhiji. Then again, Tilak has undergone imprisonment for the country, and again Mahatma Gandhi also had undergone imprisonment for the country. So these were the similarities of Tilak and Gandhiji. That's why Bal Gangadhar Tilak is being known as the forerunner of Gandhiji. So dear students, these are the points which I want to share with you today, and today we are just winding up our class, and tomorrow we will be continuing with the same chapter, and but the points will be different. As I have told in the beginning, today we have just discussed about Bal Gangadhar Tilak, but tomorrow we will be going to focus on the other two eminent personalities, Bipin Chandrapal and Lala Lajpat Rai. So I hope you are able to understand today's topic very well, revise it, learn it very well, and wait for the next class. Till then, thank you.